I want you all right now to cup your hands together and exhale into them, just like how we would during the cold weathers. Did you feel that? The warmth that encapsulated your palms as you breathe that carbon dioxide. Using that as a metaphor, your cupped hands are our globe, and our breaths are our exhaust engines, our burning coals and oils, our axes that are cutting down trees, all contributing to the climate change and global warming, causing detrimental effects to the environment through the continuous rise of the Earth's surface temperature, sea level, frequency of natural disasters, and the ecological changes over the years. But we can't just sit there and breathe into our palms every time we need to. We need another way, a more efficient way. Hello, I'm Matilda Schofield, and I'm an environmental scientist that has worked for years alongside other scientists and engineers to improve the efficiency of sustainable technology and to continue to modify and replace models with even better ones. Firstly, I'll give you a little idea of what we're dealing with. At first, greenhouse gases were our temperature regulators as they trapped and absorbed infrared radiation and heat from the sun, keeping the Earth's climate habitable for humans and millions of other species. But now, those gases need regulation. They're getting out of control and are threatening to drastically change which and where living things can survive on this planet, especially as they re-emit more and more heat into the atmosphere every year. So through the scurried communication collaboration of scientists and researchers from around the world, carbon capture and storage technology, or CCS, was found to be a favorable sustainable development and solution to the world's most pressing issue facing human society today. For many years, CCS, more specifically pre-combustion CCS technology, posed a promising future for a low-carbon society and showcased many possible future impacts. However, a few limits are still present in its application, and therefore modification and development are already underway as scientists continue to analyze its progress and societal feedback. Coal is both the largest source of electricity generation and the largest single source of CO2 emissions, creating a unique challenge in transitioning to low carbon energy systems. No matter how you label it, coal is the most polluting way to produce electricity, contributing to intensify climate change and damage to our health. As coal continues to burn, toxic and carcinogenic substances will continue to be emitted into our air, water, and land, severely affecting the health of miners, workers, and surrounding communities. It's a chain causing conditions like lung cancer, heart disease, and premature death. With China having suffered 366,000 deaths from coal alone in 2013, and approximately 169,000 Indians die from coal annually. So why put lives at risk over a polluting and prehistoric energy source when a clean alternative is ready and waiting, said Petra Stock, a climate solutions analyst. Exactly, Petra. Pre-combustion capture refers to removing CO2 from fossil fuels before combustion is completed. For example, in gasification processes, a feedstock such as coal is partially oxidized in steam and oxygen under high temperature and pressure to form synthesis gas. The syngas can then undergo the water-gas shift reaction, where carbon monoxide reacts with water, producing a H2 and CO2-rich gas mixture. From there, the hydrogen can then be used to produce electricity or whatever it is, and the CO2 is ultimately transported and stored. As estimated by the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, pre- and post-combustion capture can prevent 80 to 90% of a power plant's carbon emissions from entering the atmosphere, which is considered a big deal. However, all of this carbon has to be stored somewhere, right? So they decided to store it underground. How wonderful. In a process called geological sequestration, which involves injecting the carbon dioxide into underground rock formations. It is stored as superficial fluid, meaning it has properties between those of a gas and a liquid, and remains in the supercritical condition as long as it stays in excess of 31.1 degrees Celsius and at a pressure of 72.9 atmospheres. Many times the carbon dioxide is injected into a reservoir which previously trapped oil and gas, since those areas have natural rock formation that helps to contain the carbon dioxide better. While this might be an okay solution, no one knows for sure what the environmental impact could be if the carbon dioxide was to leak out into the environment in large quantities. In some instances, leakage of carbon dioxide underground has been shown to increase plant mortality, reduce growth, and create potentially severe localized damage to the ecosystem. For this to be a viable, safe option, the carbon dioxide would need to remain stored for hundreds of years or even indefinitely, and the feasibility of this is uncertain. So, because of the risk of leakage, there is a social license issue around onshore transportation and storage, which makes sense. If stored underpopulated areas, there's an attitude of not in my backyard developing around CCS projects in some areas, where even if people do support CCS in general and the risks are low, the perception of them can be a showstopper, and so they don't want it near them. Offshore storage doesn't suffer from this problem, obviously, but it usually is more expensive, further challenging the economics. Again, due to the risk of leakage, there is ongoing storage liabilities. These storage sites need to be monitored and maintained for potentially hundreds of years. There is an unresolved issue of who will insure or reinsure these projects, who will pay for the carbon dioxide to be captured and put back in the ground if it leaks. Regulation will be required to address these issues, and government will likely need to play a role in underwriting the risks. Therefore, numerous research is being undergone right now to solve this problem. In fact, the U.S. Energy Department has recently announced a $2.5 million funded project in this purpose. But even with all of this, we are only talking about the carbon emissions of our power plants. But only 25% of global greenhouse gas emissions come from electricity and heat production at power plants. Transportation, general industry, and agriculture collectively make up around 60% of greenhouse gas emissions. So what about all of the other carbon emitting things in our world? Is there a way to capture CO2 from these sources? This is where us scientists use the data collected from currently existing carbon capture technology, which revealed new evidence that allowed us to modify the product further into a technology with a method that is not too different from what has already been done for decades. I want to introduce to you direct air capture. Not only does it suck the CO2 directly out of the air with the ability to store it, it also transforms the carbon back into gasoline or jet fuel, creating net neutral carbon-based fuels. This type of direct air capture starts with an air contractor where air is sucked in at high volumes. This structure wet scrubs the air by using a strong hydroxide solution to capture CO2 and convert it into carbonate. The hydroxide solution reacts with carbon dioxide to form carbonate ions, which then react with calcium to form calcium carbonate in the form of dried pellets.
Then, a circulating fluid heats the calcium carbonate pellets to decomposition temperature, breaking them apart to release the carbon dioxide as a gas and leave behind calcium oxide.
Finally, the carbon dioxide is combined with hydrogen and converted into liquid fuels, including gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel, using the Fischer-Tropsch process. This is a process where a mixture of carbon monoxide and hydrogen are converted into liquid hydrocarbons. This means the company can produce carbon-neutral hydrocarbons, meaning if you were to burn this fuel in your car, you would release carbon dioxide pollution out of your exhaust and into the atmosphere. But because this carbon dioxide came from the air in the first place, these emissions would not introduce any new carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, and no oil would need to be extracted from the earth to power your car. And perhaps most importantly, for the economic viability of this idea, they can sell the product, which helps to offset costs, allowing them to capture even more carbon dioxide to either convert back into hydrocarbon or ultimately store. Some worry that technology like this will allow us to think that we have no responsibility to reduce emissions, and it is cheaper to not emit a ton of carbon dioxide in the first place than to capture it. While these are all definitely valid points, technology like this can and should play a role in how we tackle climate change. It's unrealistic to think that every industry, every consumer, and every government in the world will change their behavior in time to tackle the rising global temperature, as much as we wish they would. And technology like this will go a long way to help mitigate the negative effects of industries where a carbon zero result is next to impossible, like steel or cement manufacturing or long distance air travel. So this may not be a silver bullet curing the world of climate change, but it is definitely technology to be invested in as a tool in the toolbox to help solve the problem. And with direct air capture able to operate anywhere where there is air, water, and electricity, every country could, in theory, have their own supply of carbon-neutral fuel. Overall, this technology does not only currently capture and process approximately 1 ton of carbon dioxide per day, enabling the decarbonization of industry and helping to achieve a low emissions future, but it also has provided the capacity for an average of 3,897 new jobs and training opportunities, both on site to operate the plant and in planning, construction, engineering, and other functions in the supply chain, ensuring sustainable growth for the impacted region. Additionally, the attraction of new businesses will provide agglomeration benefits through knowledge sharing, etc., etc. Be a part of this change, support it, and maybe one of you here is impacted enough to invest into this technology that might just preserve and save not only the people we love, but also our future generations and modern civilization from our never-ending emissions and effect on the environment. Thank you.